How is a crime committed by the president a state issue? This should exclusively be a federal issue. No, not necessarily. States have crimes. The federal government has crimes. People can commit crimes in different states. They can be held liable in different states for state crimes. Just depends on what you're doing. Do you think this will change the pool of future presidential candidates while they try to test the law? Maybe. Why wouldn't you? My understanding is that Donald Trump's attorneys are trying to do that now. I think they're trying to say that I've only seen like things posted in chat, but I think they're trying to claim now that, oh, well, actually, hold on. These other things that we were charged with, these were official acts. The fake elector scheme, this is an official act. If his legal team is able to argue that any part of this elector scheme was an official act, not only is that beyond criminal review, it also can't be considered in any other part of the trial as well. So technically, for Donald Trump's legal team to beat the Jack Smith case, they don't even really have to beat every single thing. If they can just pick enough things out of it, you kind of lose the cohesive elements that you could even use to make the case against him. Like right now, none of the conversation, like in my opinion, the conversation between him and his attorney general, like not only, fuck me, I'm so irritated. I just realized this. Not only would that conversation be above judicial review, we wouldn't even know about it, because the only reason we do know about that conversation is because of it being reviewed, essentially. That January 6th commission probably wouldn't have had the ability to do any sort of investigation there, because all the subpoenas would die or wouldn't be authorized, and the indictment wouldn't have gone through on that particular thing because that was a core power. So we wouldn't even know about that conversation. Off topic, but I saw you say on Piers Morgan that the president gets to place people on the court. Do you not agree the Constitution says the president nominates and then the Senate confirms? Why would I not agree when you've just restated part of my position? What did I say that makes you think I disagreed with that? And what do you think you're saying that is countering anything I've said? Can this decision be reversed or irrelevant in any way? A Supreme Court Supreme Court in the future could overturn this decision, or Congress could pass an amendment, a constitutional amendment changing it. Those are the only two ways. Can you give a steel man for this decision? I really can't understand how even a partisan could claim, a partisan court could claim this is constitutional. Yeah, the steel man, you should be able to steel man. Listen, Supreme Court justices might make, in my opinion, wild fucking decisions, but they're always going to have some argumentation or backing. They publish so much shit. These guys write so much. They love writing. They're writing pedophiles. Basically, the steel man argument is when the United States of America's government was conceived of, we were given a legislature. I'm borrowing a lot from, I think, Federalist Paper 69 and 70 here. The legislature was created. The legislature is supposed to be slow and bogged down, and there are supposed to be multiple people on it that disagree with each other. And that disagreement is good, okay? There is a goodness to the fighting on the legislature. You want these guys disagreeing with each other. You want these guys debating each other. You want these guys to have these huge arguments over what legislation look like. You want it to be slow, okay? You want that to happen because that's a good legislature. They should be debating that in that tension, something great is created, which is hopefully legislation that represents, the legislature, which is elected by the people, as best as possible. However, now that the law is passed, when the law is given to the executive, there is a reason why in the United States of America we have one man, one unitary executive who is entrusted with that power. And that's because when it comes to the execution of law, you don't want there to be multiple people with co-equal power. You want there to be one man or woman that says, this is the law, this is how it's going to be done. Boom, that's it. Having a disagreement on the executive level, having a disagreement with your magistrate, is what they would have called it back then, having a disagreement with people that are supposed to execute the law makes you look weak, makes you look feeble. It makes you look like you don't know what the fuck is going on. It arouses doubt in the minds of your constituents. It's a horrible deal. So you want the executive, a quote used often by Roberts, the framers envisioned an energetic and vigorous executive. When you make the executive's actions, especially core actions that only he himself as the president can take, when you make those actions reviewable by a criminal court, what you essentially tell the president is, listen, when you're making decisions on how best to execute your function as the president of the United States, when you make that decision, you should be thinking about what is the best way to execute the law for the best outcome for your country. You don't want them thinking, well, fuck, but if I do it this way, somebody might come at me with a crime. You never want the president to be thinking, not in the best interest of the country, but in his own personal best interest to avoid criminal charges. Maybe there's a hard decision that needs to be taken that might result in something that an ordinary person would be charged with a crime for, but the president thinks that it's the best way to faithfully execute the laws passed by Congress, or he thinks it's in the best interest of his exclusive role in something in the president for the execution of his role. You don't want him to be second-guessing himself and for him to be making decisions for his own personal safety because of criminal liability. So that's why the Supreme Court has argued when the president is acting in an official act, especially as part of those core powers, it should be beyond all judicial review, criminal review. That's like the Roberts Steelman. Do you think that Shapiro would still argue that the guardrails are stronger than Trump? Opinion now that JP policy is actively removed. The initial argument that he made was dumb. I don't know. Can you come up with an example of that? Not saying there isn't. It's just hard to conceptualize. I don't know. Not really, no. And they don't really give any examples either. Maybe they come in more in concurrent opinions. Who will decide the result? Is it a judge or jury? Is it possible that in defiance, a judge would say it was a crime knowing the gravity? No, you can't. The Supreme Court says no. The Supreme Court is the final matter. Yeah. Can you provide me an example of a federal law that a president could be worried about breaking in their job as president? No, I can't. In a criminal way? Not really. No, I have a hard time envisioning that. I'm not sure. But I don't know. Maybe one will come up. Maybe I'll think about it more. That's why I don't know. I don't like it for a variety of reasons. But yeah, that's... Is there even evidence for elections being stolen or numbers being tampered with? Nothing that would be election determinative or outcome determinative in any state or district, I think, yeah. Do you think the fear was that due to separation of powers precedent, the Supreme Court didn't want to delegitimize the executive branch? I don't know. I feel like all I've heard over and over and over again is that the executive branch has way too much power, but... If Biden loses, can he just use this ruling to reelect himself using Trump's tactics? Seems like it. I don't know how you would get away from that. Joe Biden says that he thinks Joe Biden goes to have a conversation with the CIA director. It's not Ray right now, right? Who's the CIA director? William J. Burns. He goes to talk to Burns, and in that conversation, he tells Burns, listen, I think Trump is a threat to the U.S., or maybe not, I don't know, I just don't like him. We need to take him out. We need to assassinate him. So get some dudes, go get him. I don't know if he's at Mar-a-Lago or whatever. And report back. Let me know. That happens. Trump is assassinated. Biden's chilling at the White House. And the country is looking. And now every single Republican is obviously screeching and pissing and shitting and coming and diarrheaing. And their eyeballs are leaking out of their heads, all screaming on Twitter. What's going on? But then the Democrats calmly respond and they say, hey, if you don't like the fact that you think that Biden just assassinated your candidate, impeach him. That's literally all you can do. Impeach him and eat shit. Because you said that when the president of the United States is speaking with, the head of the CIA, that is exclusively within a core power of the president. You don't want to judicially review that action. That would be crazy. You don't want a president to have to worry about, serving in one of the most important roles, managing the protection and the defense of this country. Now, Did Biden just order an assassination? Well, I don't know. We can't review it judicially. That is a core and exclusive power. That's not given. Also, get familiar with these terms. Presumptive immunity is not granted there. Presumptive immunity happens when the presidential power has an overlap with the congressional power. A core exclusive presidential power is not given presumptive immunity. It's given absolute immunity. It's immune from subpoena, and it's immune from judicial review, meaning it can never be charged with a crime, and nothing about it can ever be used in any legal case ever. So if you don't like the fact that Biden ordered the assassination of Donald Trump while engaging in his core act as a president, then impeach him. That's it. And if he does it on the last day in office and you can't impeach him, then I don't know. That's it. That's the part that's so confusing me. Why would conservatives be excited about this? The same group that supposedly rigged the election is now essentially free to do whatever they want, and they're celebrating because they just assume Trump will win. That's a really good question. There are multiple ways to come at that. One is that most of them are just probably too retarded to know what this will result in or could result in. Two is that most of them are short-sighted, and they just see this as being able to exonerate Trump from his court cases, because I personally think that it's likely that the Mar-a-Lago case and the Jack Smith case will probably be completely tossed. I think Trump is now saved from both of those cases. I don't know about the Georgia one. I don't know how this is going to engage with like state the state investigation. I don't know how that works. So they're short-sighted, and they see it as being good because it exonerates Trump from his court cases, and then. And they just don't think Biden will do anything with it. I don't know. Yeah. They assume Trump will win and the Democrats will not abuse their power. Yeah, basically, yeah. How do you think Senate Republicans will respond, considering many voted against impeachment because they believe Trump could be held criminally responsible after leaving office? Bullshit. Don't ever believe anything Republicans say. Republicans have no fucking spine at all, okay? Republicans are spineless fucking losers. Republicans, they're not even the SPD or whatever the fuck, the Social Democrats or whatever. I don't even know who, they would just be the Nazi party, not to do the Voshian comparison. God, I wish I knew more. I wish I knew more about how this act came to be. But the Republicans will sit by and championing this as it happens the whole time. Like, that's it. That's all they've done the whole time. They haven't, stood in opposition to literally any of this. For me to truly understand the Enabling Act, I feel like I would need a better grasp on the core of German law. Fuck me. I don't always trust what I read on Wikipedia anymore. At least not for Israel-Palestine stuff. If this is just the text. When people typically say the government, when they're talking about law, the government is separated from the parliament, right? Like the government is like the president and all that shit, and then the parliament is the other thing, I think. So what the Enabling Act did for Hitler was the Enabling Act gave Hitler the ability to pass laws, basically, which our executive doesn't have, and this ruling doesn't give him any de jure, meaning like as written ability to do that. Does it give him the ability de facto to change the way that he functions? Maybe. Arguably. Do you honestly think that this could reach Nazi Germany levels just based on the last Supreme Court decision? No, I don't think that. It's never just one thing. It probably wasn't the case in Germany. It's probably not the case in any fascist. There's never just one thing that does it. Destiny, it doesn't empower him really. It just means he can't be charged, but his actions can still be checked. You're completely and totally fucking incorrect. The whole point of this ruling was that some actions have no checks. You're dead wrong. Damn, I got his attention for a second, but I typed my follow-up too slow. I may never know why destiny consistently implies the Senate does not have the right to vote against a Supreme Court nomination. Oh, Holy 1T03. My bad. I didn't realize, or I forget sometimes, that I'm speaking to conservatives who are fucking retarded and don't know any of the history, any of the processes, or literally anything that they talk about. The issue with McConnell and his Senate and the lack of confirmation of Garland was not that the Senate voted him down, okay? That's not what happened. That wasn't the issue, all right? Go look it up. Go look up the process, do some reading, and educate yourself. That's not what the issue was, and that's not what happened. Let me grab a Red Bull 1 second. I don't think they can toss the Mar-a-Lago documents case because the document obstruction crimes were done after he was president. No. Well, the question would be if any of the initial stuff was even legally obtained. The thing is, the question is remember, the court defended the outer perimeter of what the president might consider like an official act. They defended the outer perimeter of what that could be, okay? So anything that could conceivably be an official act. So it is possible that him taking those documents, that him initially doing that maybe could conceivably be an official act. Maybe, I don't know. It depends on how far we run with the thing is, like, everything is going to be argued from that for Trump's lawyers. They're gonna argue every single one of those things was an official act, and that he, at the very least, if not given absolute immunity, at the very least he's given presumptive immunity, and that needs to be overcome now in pretrial before that needs to be declared. But I don't know. You would think that obstruction of justice after the fact probably shouldn't be, but who knows? We'll see. All these provisions you're citing, they're pretty similar to what was recently used during COVID in many European countries where executive bodies of state, government, or president could make some emergency decrees without consensus with the parliament. I don't know these things, but you're 99% you're wrong. I seriously doubt it. I'm pretty sure most countries, the United States included, gives executors of power pretty broad deference during times of like national emergency. But the idea that like, oh, well, during COVID, the president could have come to all of our houses and made all of us take our pants off and touch our butts in front of him and then recorded it and blah, like, fuck off. I hear that bullshit. Just to be perfectly clear, you guys all said that that was going to be the new normal indefinitely going forward, and that our whole future was destroyed and doomed because every fucking power that had been granted to was infinitely going to be abused in the future, blah, blah, blah. No, fuck you. Okay. Is there anything Americans can actually do about this ruling? Probably not. I mean, you keep voting for Democrats and hopefully don't have more Supreme Court justices that are conservative. What do you think about this flow chart with regards to the case? I need to go back to reading this. Pathways for prosecution after the Supreme Court. Types of conduct. You have official acts. Is it conclusive and preclusive? Core constitutional authority. So conclusive means I think it's definitely done by the president, and it needs to be done by the president to run the country. And then preclusive means that only the president can do it and nobody else can. If the answer is yes, then you get absolute immunity for these actions, meaning no part of it can be questioned. No prosecution, no use as evidence, and you can't probe into it or do anything, right? Yeah. And the example given in the Supreme Court case was the pressure on... Oh, actually, it was... That's just an example they're giving. But them talking to the AG would have been, yeah. If it's a conclusive plus preclusive, core constitutional, if it's not, let's say there's overlap with Congress, does it pose any dangers of intrusion on the authority and functions of the executive branch? If the answer is yes, then you can't do anything. Boom. And then no, then maybe, yeah, then you can go down there, yeah. And then if it's unofficial conduct, then you can treat it as ordinary. But I don't know what's ever going to include unofficial conduct when you're the president of the United States, because almost everything can be argued to be official conduct. Will you react to Ben Shapiro on the ruling? Did he give a reaction to it? Please explain the difference between absolute versus presumptive immunity. I'm begging you, I don't get it. Okay, sure. Okay, limited understanding of the court system, so beware. Okay, in the United States of America, okay, you have a trial, okay? In order for there to be a trial, okay, a couple things have to happen first, okay? First, we're talking criminal trial, okay? First, there needs to be probable cause, and then from probable cause, we can get criminal charges, okay? So probable cause gets us criminal charges or an indictment, okay? And then one of these things is applied to a citizen who now is facing, charges or an indictment, okay? Now, before a trial date is set, okay, you've got pre-trial where the defendant or the DA, I think, can file motions that can do a variety of things before the actual trial happens, okay? Now, there's a whole bunch of pre-trial motions that I don't know about, okay? But you might file pre-trial motions. I think a common one might be like a motion to dismiss. So you might file a motion to dismiss. You might say, hey, let's say, for instance, let's say that you've been indicted for a crime. And let's say that the indictment file says, yesterday we saw Stephen Bonnell and he was walking down the street and he looked at a woman. And when he looked at that woman felt, she felt like he sexually assaulted her with his look, okay? Now he's being criminally charged, okay? I would tell, my attorney would say, okay, well, hold on. My attorney's going to file a pretrial motion to dismiss, and he's going to say, hey, look at the criminal statute and look at what's laid out in the indictment. You would say, I think, prima facie, there's not actually a criminal case here. Even if the indictment is true, what's being alleged isn't even criminal conduct. My motion is that we should dismiss this case. Here you go. Now, I don't know if a judge can look at that and make a determination without the other side giving a counter motion, or if a motion just goes right to a judge. I think the motion is just gone to the judge and then the motion is considered by the judge. I don't think it has to be considered by the side. The judge might be able to solicit information from the prosecutor. You've also got both sides can be filing motions. There are cross motion filings where they file at each other, but you have all this stuff pre-trial, okay, where people are kind of hammering out okay, well, what exactly is it about? Can I dismiss this through some way? Do we add charge? Whatever. All this is pre-trial. Once all this happens, then the actual trial happens, okay? Assuming you get convicted, and then from there you get sentenced, okay? All right. What absolute immunity means that, let's say that I'm the executive of the United States and the Constitution says Stephen Bonnell, through exclusive power granted to the president, shall have the ability to look at any woman that he wants. That means that if I do anything within the purview of looking at a woman, even if I look at a woman and then I order somebody to murder her, okay? Let's say I'm looking at her, I say, God, somebody needs to kill her, okay? Let's do it, whatever. But I'm exercising that power of looking at the woman, okay? Because I'm exercising that core power, and that power is conclusive and preclusive. Because I have absolute immunity there, it is unquestionable, and you can't even bring charges against me. You can't even investigate that. You have no right to probe or do anything relating to that power, okay? You have to fuck completely off. It's beyond judicial review. Presumptive immunity means that in this court case, now I think this is a new legal thing that's basically been constructed in this court case. I don't think presumptive immunity is a thing that's ever shown up before, but presumptive immunity means that, let's say that I'm looking at this woman and but let's say that Congress also has the ability to look at women. If you're a sitting congressman, you can also look at women, okay? Oh, cool, we've got the power too, okay? let's say that as I'm looking at this woman, I look at her, I'm like, I'm going to order a hit. Fuck this bitch, all right? Yeah, fuck her, okay? Because other people can do it. It's not exclusive and preclusive to me, okay? Somebody might look at that and they might go, okay, well, hold on. It is a power still to the president, so we're going to presume that he's immune here. But if the state can argue that he wasn't acting in an official act, or if he was, that action, if that action wasn't, like if probing this action wouldn't destroy the ability of the executive to do his job, if you can beat that argument in pre-trial, then and only then can we proceed to any sort of actual hearing, okay? That's, so all of the presumptive immunity stuff, all of this is happening pre-trial. It's happening before anything actually goes to court, okay? This is presumptive immunity. You're presumed to be immune unless the prosecutor, in this case the state or the federal government, can put forth an argument for why you shouldn't have this particular immunity. Now, how you make that argument, I don't think the court has given any guidance on that. That's going to be for the lower courts to try to figure out. But, so literally this, he can do this.
The people, my people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. No, they say, Trump, we love you too, man. Trump's voters are by far, you know, I'm at 6.
Well, so this is the issue, is you don't know. The problem is, let's say Donald Trump is like, Donald Trump is walking down the street and he's like, well, I'm the commander in chief. I think that's an enemy, you know, that's a militant, and I need to shoot him. I need to protect our country. Okay, well, he's the commander in chief of the military. It's a core function of the president, arguably one of the most important executive functions of the president. Should a court be allowed to review that decision? I don't know. Okay, let's read. So Thomas decides, I don't know why, but he's decided that he wants to say that there should never, ever, ever be a special counsel. That apparently there should never be special counsels, and they all need to go because they're not constitutional. I don't know why. I have no idea why that's taken up here, or why Thomas decided to opine on this in this ruling. I don't know, but he's decided to write his manifesto here on it. Jesus Christ. Okay. Thomas regularly uses his concurrences on things he hates. Bayzed. Oh, we didn't finish watching this either. Sorry, I'll do this real quick. I keep coming back to the fact that the court gives no test for overcoming presumptive immunity. In Nixon v. Fitzgerald, it was a balancing act, public interest versus intrusion into the executive.
I understand they're not being permitted in.
Biden should just order all lower courts to ignore the Supreme Court's rulings. He could do that as an official act, no? No. Trump, no. The courts don't exist. Biden has nothing to do with the courts. The courts exist under the judicial. The only power that the president has for the courts is appointment. He can appoint judges, but he can't tell them how to judge. That's part of the judicial.
The problem, you can contact the governor's office, the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, or...
Now, could the President of the United States talk to the Attorney General and tell the AG, hey, tell all the judges don't enforce this? Sure, that's a core power of the President of the United States, and he should be granted absolute... In fact, he's already been granted absolute authority with essentially every single conceivable question or every single conceivable thing he could have a discussion with his Attorney General with about the operation of that branch.
The governor's press release this morning that said due to COVID, is that the reason being given?
No.
All right, that was what the press release said. Is there another reason why?
You'd have to ask the governor's office to answer that question. I don't have.
We
any
have a
knowledge.
copy of paperwork that was prepared as electors under their constitutional duty. Can I speak to the Sergeant at Arms of the Senate to deliver it to the chamber today?
He's in a meeting right now with the Electoral College. He's not available to meet.
Captain Green, is it Captain?
First Lieutenant Green.
First Lieutenant, can you deliver this?
I cannot.
Okay. Is there anyone here?
Did the authentic electors / state government know what they were trying to do? I don't know if they knew of this in advance. I'm not sure.
That's willing to allow us.
Well, actually, we just watched. I think what's the name of the lady? Maddow, I think on MSNBC. I guess in her program, I was only reading the titles and listening a little bit. It sounded like she was trying to make the argument that some of the paperwork that these fake electors had looked like it was copied from the paperwork from the official delegates. So it seems like somebody on the inside might have been working with them. Maybe. Now, that sounded like that was all the evidence. I don't know if they had more than that, but...
Elected officials and electors to deliver this to the Senate today.
The DOJ does not employ judges. They are a separate branch. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, that's true. The federal government can only appoint judges. Even the attorney general, nobody gives instruction to the judiciary. That's true. I'm sorry, that was completely wrong. No part of the. I'm sorry. There's an easy test for that too. If you understand how government functions, if the president doesn't have control over something, then nobody beneath the president has control over something because the president is the executive branch, and everything that exists underneath the president only exists at the essentially to help the president do his job. That's it. In an ideal world, the president would be a super machine that doesn't need any of these lower things. So if the president can't do it, then nobody beneath him can do it because they all exist underneath him.
At 2 p.m.
Okay. I can ask the Senate Majority Leader, the House Majority Leader, and
Senator Mike Shirkey, would you deliver that to him? Tell him Ian Northam.
You can contact his office directly and make arrangements to drop that off to him, sir. I'm not going to take anything.
You're not letting us in the building. His office is inside.
He's not here.
What's that?
He's not here.
So are you telling me that the Senate chamber is in session and the Senate leader's not here?
Yeah. So you'd have to contact his office and make arrangements to meet with him to determine where.
Somebody from the governor's team that's running this.
You'd have to contact the governor's office with their team to make arrangements for them.
Is the president a cop? I believe that the president would have. Wait, that's actually a really interesting question. Hold on. Can the president of the United States arrest someone for a federal crime? Could he theoretically? He must be able to, right? Politics Stack Exchange. Can the president personally arrest someone? If all executive powers held by the president can arrest, doesn't that mean the president can too? Everyone can make an arrest, but I suppose you're not asking about that, are you? No. In the UK, any citizen can perform an arrest, however, in the case of citizenship, no one cares. Any individual in the U.S. No, cringe. The power to make an arrest is vested in certain official positions. These positions are established by federal, state, or local statute, i.e. by Congress, state legislatures, or local committees. An individual is supposed to be granted the power when they take these offices for the term they hold such offices. Under normal institutional constraint, that's not I don't know if that's a legal question. Man, I'm so confused, or I'm so curious about this. Can the president personally arrest someone? Reddit. Huh. Before 2023. I think that, so in any office that exists under the president has to be created by Congress. It might be the case that if the president is authorized by Congress to create an office to enforce a law, I don't know if that means that he personally can enforce it. I'm not sure. A scene in the TV show Designated Survivor shows the president arresting a state governor for treason. What? President arrest.
President Kirkman, Governor Royce.
Welcome to Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Took some doing, but I had a very nice conversation with your special advisor, and I welcome this chance for an honest and open dialogue.
Well, I think you'll find that I'm not going to be very flexible on this. You see, I believe that all Americans, regardless of race or religion, should be afforded and protected by the same inalienable rights.
If I may.
You may not. Governor, you violated the rights of the citizens of Michigan, and today you conspired with the National Guard to defy a direct order from the president. James Royce, I am placing you under arrest for treason against the United States of America. Marshals.
Reasonable.
Could he do that? Could he arrest him himself? Well, now, with Kiefer Sutherland as the source, it seems like maybe the president can. Powers of Federal Bureau of Investigation. The director, associate director, assistant to the director, assistant director, inspectors, and agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the Department of Justice may carry firearms, serve warrants and subpoenas issued under the authority of the United States, and make arrests without warrant for any offense against the United States committed in their presence, or for any felony cognizable under the laws of the United States, if they have reasonable grounds to believe that the person to be arrested is committed or is committing such felony. Okay. Can Congress grant powers to a federal office but not the president? Could you do that? There's no way that's possible, right? Because couldn't you theoretically, no, hold on, this can't be possible. Because couldn't you theoretically have Congress create like a mini executive who's stronger than the president, like, and start granting him a bunch of powers that the president doesn't have? This is probably in the actual Constitution itself, huh? Off topic, but is it true that black guys on average have bigger ding-dongs, or is that just a myth? My personal opinion is I think all penis-length research is, like, highly not reliable. I've seen so many fucking random like, things on average dick sizes between, like, there are some fucking, what was that one study that was saying, like, the average dick size of some African countries, like, 9 inches long? No shot. I don't know. I don't know if I trust any of that research. By vesting Congress with all legislative powers, Supreme Court has viewed the legislative vesting clause as limiting the authority Congress can delegate to other branches of government or private entities. In general, the court has held that the legislative power of Congress cannot be delegated. Okay. Okay, enough of this. One video and then we read. We're wasting time. What is this? Today in Lugano. Somebody about to die in this video? No, it's Europe. Wait, why do they have their guns out if they're not going to use them? Or are they stun guns? Are they tasers? Or what is... Why would you hand-to-hand fight a dude when you have a gun out? Or in Europe, do you guys have like gentlemen's agreements to just not shoot each other? Sounds like a real gun. Okay.
Have conceded here the last time that you and I spoke in April, and John Sauer, who was arguing this before the Supreme Court, that some of what's alleged would be considered a private act. So that would mean that at least part of this case from Jack Smith would go to court based on what you have said before, right?
We've admitted consistently that there are acts alleged in the indictment that would constitute private conduct, but we believe that if the official conduct, the immune acts in the indictment are stripped away, that Jack Smith doesn't have a case, that this case should be dismissed on that basis.
Possibly, that might be true.
I don't think there's sufficient private conduct here to support the indictment, to support the ongoing prosecution, and that's what we're going to be litigating in front of the district court now.
Even just the false slates of electors, you don't think that would constitute enough for a trial?
Well, we would say alternate slates of electors, and as we argued before the Supreme Court, alternate slates of electors have been a method used by previous presidents, most notably Ulysses S. Grant, to ensure the integrity of prior elections. So we believe the assembly of those alternate slates of electors was an official act of the presidency. That's what we argued before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has reserved that issue for determination by the district court, and we'll see how arguments fall in front of the district court.
Yeah, we've walked through those historical references here before. None of them compare to what we saw in 2020 with the fake slates of electors. But Will Scharf, great to have your reaction to this. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I would disagree with that, Caitlin, but great to be with you. Thank you.
He would be factually incorrect, but... How could you possibly argue for that? You can't. You're relying on the other person to not have an understanding of what those prior electoral acts, what those prior electoral slates were authorized for. Glenn Greenwald tried that when we debated. He tried to float that. Well, they've done this before, but then as soon as I pushed him, I went, hold on, why did they do that in Hawaii? He was like, okay, yeah, well, it was a close election, and the state actually authorized it. It wasn't just a secret private group of electors. The state authorized it because they were doing a recount, and the recount was incredibly close, so that way they would authorize either set depending on who won. It's a totally different circumstance. It's actual fucking bullshit. Yeah, the only way that argument works is if the other person is just not familiar with the history.
The Republicans more powerful. Right, but again, so that plays into the idea that anybody but Trump. And what I'm saying is that I would rather have Trump be president for 4 years and build a real left-wing movement that can get us what we deserve as a people than to let Hillary be president and we stay locked in the same space.
Yeah, where is that left-wing movement at right now, by the way? Where are they at?
Would rather not have Donald Trump be president
I don't know
at all,
about
period.
Trump, man.
I just felt
Independence.
How many years ago was this? He said this 4 years ago, didn't he? Or 8 years ago? This you. No, I didn't say I'd rather Trump be president. That's a ridiculous misrepresentation of what I said. You're excluding the fact that I also said that we should do everything we can to keep Trump out of the White House. You're also ignoring the fact now that my concern about... no, I didn't. I'd rather Trump be president. You literally said it, and it's on video too.
Again, the electors by statute, it's statute MCL 168.47, have to be at the Senate chamber today.
Okay.
At 2 p.m. They're trying.
I'm telling you that they're not going to be allowed to enter the Capitol, sir.
All right, thank you, Lieutenant.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Republican plan today by coming here? The electors can speak for themselves, but the hope and plan is for them to follow their constitutional duty. Under the U.S. Constitution, not just the Michigan Constitution, but under the U.S. Constitution, the electors have a duty to vote for their chosen candidate. In this case, the GOP electors slate their chosen candidate, President Trump. The Democrat electors are inside, I'm told, slating their chosen candidate, Joseph Biden. There's actually Green Party and Libertarian Party electors selected before the election as well. So the statute says it has to be done at 2 p.m. That's why they're here trying to do it. That paperwork is signed, it's sealed, and it's trying to be delivered. Stevie Wonder and Motown, I think, said that a little better than I did. But the point is that's not being happened. They're being stopped from fulfilling their constitutional duty. Now, I would call upon the Michigan legislature in the People's House. This is the legislature building in the People's House to finish their investigation so that we know which set of electors should ultimately be chosen before.
Did any of these fake electors get in legal trouble for this? I think in most of the states, yes. Most of these people are now being prosecuted for, I would imagine, for perjury. I don't know what else. Can you make sense of what he said? He's citing the laws correctly. He's just lying about them being the slate of electors. The slate of electors are supposed to meet. They're supposed to transmit their votes to Congress and to NARA, but these guys are not them. These guys are just private citizens that are falsely perjuring. They're alleging that they are the electors, but they're not. They're just lying under direction from Donald Trump.
A rash decision is made, especially while that investigation is ongoing, especially why a judge up in Antrim County, Judge Elsenheimer,
Abba said, at the time, nobody knew how bad Trump would be. Not the craziest thing to say. If he feels differently now, perfectly justified. No, it's not perfectly justified. He is, how old is he? 45 years old. He knows how the Supreme Court works. The strongest argument in favor of Hillary Clinton was always the Supreme Court. Everybody knew it at all points in time. And arguably, the most destruction that Trump has caused has been to the Supreme Court, to where Roe v. Wade went, and Chevron, a lot of people have been talking about, and now this decision. So, no, nothing has changed significantly. Everybody knew, no matter how bad Trump would be, that he would nominate very conservative justices. That was always known.
Just this morning, released a previously sealed or previously proprietary report, a forensic report that shows the voting machines used in Antrim County and in several other important counties throughout the state showed an error rate above 60% on the tabulation of the counting of votes. Under Michigan law and under federal law, under the Help America's Vote Act, that error rate is supposed to be less than 0.2%. But in Antrim County, based on those machines, the error rate was over 60%. And it would kick it into a adjudication by software, by code. It would kick it into an adjudication where the error rate was over 80%. That affected the race up in Antrim County. It was called user error and human error. That wasn't the case at all. That report released this morning over.
Would you say there wasn't ever liberal hysteria, and they were 100% right about Trump in every way? The problem is that the challenge when dealing with Trump, there's multiple challenges at play here. One is that conservatives have completely flown off from reality. So the conservatives are a huge part. The second problem are uninformed people in the middle that just don't know any better. And then they always accuse the left of overreacting. And the third part was legitimately Trump was way worse than anybody thought any reasonable person thought he would be. Maybe. I consider myself a reasonable person. I thought that Trump getting elected would be pretty bad. But then I also thought that, like, it's probably just going to be business as usual. Like, whatever. It's bad, like, it happens. Bad presidents come and go. Whatever the fuck. I don't think any, like, intelligent person actually thought that he would be this unhinged. But then a fourth issue is that Donald Trump does so many unhinged things that it's hard to make him account for those things, because when you start to call out too many, all of the Trump fans just go, Trump derangement syndrome, Trump derangement syndrome, Trump derangement syndrome. Uninformed people in the middle will look at it and go, yeah, true, these guys are being deranged. Like, you guys are being way too harsh on Trump. You guys are being not fair. And so when you're on the sidelines, you're kind of stuck in this weird world. It's like, okay, well, I can't criticize Donald Trump for everything he does because that makes me seem unhinged. Meanwhile, conservatives run pieces about Obama preferring Dijon mustard to ordinary mustard or wearing tan suits. Okay, well, we have to be careful about criminal investigations into Donald Trump stuff, even though the Republicans have been obsessing about Hillary's emails for years. Okay. We can't focus. We just have to, I guess, completely drop the idea that Donald Trump won't publish his taxes, won't divest from his businesses, is a billionaire with assets all over the world, and is also president of the United States making decisions. But we have to talk about Hunter Biden being on the board of Burisma, I guess. Like, the problem is that, like, if you're in a Democrat world, the Republicans have such an unbelievably low standard of what they tolerate and as soon as you try to hold them to account for anything, they try to play by your rules. They try to play with the Democratic rules. Like, well, hold on. I thought that we weren't supposed to criticize for that. So, yeah. So there's two huge sets of rules. And Ben Shapiro admitted it when he debated me. There's two different sets of rules. When the Democrats are defending their people and when they are attacking the Republicans, they have to play by the Democrat rules. When the Republicans are defending their guy or attacking Democrats, they get to play by the Republican rules. So you end up, it's an unwinnable world. You can't win in that world because what's greenlit for Republican conduct is so unbelievably wide, and what's available for criticism is so narrow that it's an unwinnable. Yeah. But what are you going to do? What's the solution then? I don't know. We're get rid of the internet. I think the internet has kind of fucked a lot of us, but I guess you just keep making. I mean, like, technically, Democrats are doing better and better. We just don't see it as much because the institutional power, or I shouldn't say the structural power. For as much as conservatives hate institutions, the structural power of the government broadly supports Republican legislative and presidential power because the Senate gives undue weight to red voters, the House gives undue weight to red voters, and the Electoral College gives undue weight to red voters. And now the Supreme Court favors red voters. So technically, because the Republicans benefit so much from their structural power, it's hard to see when Democrats are making gains. But I mean, like, even if you consider, like, people, screech and moan about, like, oh, Hillary Clinton got destroyed by Donald Trump. Well, no, she didn't. Hillary Clinton annihilated Donald. In fact, I don't think I've heard her stand on this, but it wouldn't surprise me if Hillary had. No, that can't be true. Never mind. No, that wouldn't be true. Besides Barack Obama, I bet Hillary Clinton probably had some of the most votes. Like, the popular vote between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump there's a huge gulf between this. 3 million votes. So over a 2-point difference in votes for Hillary versus Trump. But again, because of the structure of how the United States government works, Donald Trump won by almost 80 electoral votes. So it's hard to see if Democrats are gaining because of the structural power that Republicans have. Wait, why the House isn't it proportional? The House tries to be proportional, but it still favors small states pretty significantly. Even the House is. One thing that I would support immediately is I think the House of Representatives should be expanded. Absolutely. The House of Representatives should be way more representative of people rather than land, because that's what the Senate is for. There's no excuse for the House to not accurately resemble the constituents of the United States. Hillary was so unlikable, though, no one trusted her. Apparently 3 million more Americans trusted Hillary than Donald Trump, but how does the House favor small states? Because it's not directly proportional. Like, I don't know what the exact numbers are. I'm sure you look them up, but it would be like this. Let's say that you have a state with 1 million voters, and let's say that you have a state with 10 million voters. The way that it works right now in the House of Representatives is it would be like, oh, the 10 million voter state, that state has 10 representatives. The 1 million voter state, they only have 3 representatives, right? So conservatives in chat, I'm sure they've been saying this when I've been reading these two. Conservatives might say some shit like, oh, no, actually, larger states have more representation in the House. No, not really. Like, the state kind of does a little bit, but like per voter, you still have less representation, even in the House of Representatives. And I don't think it should be that way. The Senate already has 2 votes per state. There's no reason to favor land in the House as well. This should be rebalanced. Even in the House of Representatives, the smaller states are disproportionately represented.
The objections of the Attorney General's office and over the objections of the Secretary of State's office, they tried to prevent that report from being released. They tried to keep that concealed from the people of Michigan.
You're thinking of Electoral College. Wyoming only gets one House vote. The I don't. Why are you arguing with me on this? Okay. House. What would I even look up to? What would I even look up to see this? Vote, individual vote weight per citizen, House representatives. Crescential. Come, please, come. Crescential, as an attorney, watching Destiny go through these Supreme Court cases and legal issues makes me doubt his research in other areas. Please come to the disagreement room. Nothing makes me happier. Attorneys are the highest level of hubris to level of education, okay? You have one of the most dipshittably attainable master's degrees. All you have to do is read and pass a test, okay, that like fucking 80% of people fucking pass anyways, all right? Nobody gives a fuck. And then you go and you practice, and then you forget literally every fucking thing you've learned in school anyways, and most of you suck shit at your jobs regardless, okay? Come in and chat. Come in and argue if you want. If you think that any of my analysis has been incorrect, feel free to jump into the Stream Disagreements channel on Discord. Go for it, please. Yes. Nothing makes me feel smarter than chewing up, okay, the worst type of grad student. Please come in and chat. How do we know that Republicans are the crazy ones and not us? They seem to have the exact same condition. We just look at the facts. I don't know. Give me one to argue with, and I'll show you. The U.S. population keeps growing, but the House of Representatives is the same size as in the Taft era. Wide range of representation ratios across the state. So these are the number of people represented by one lawmaker. So if you go to smaller states here, you'll see the number of people represented by one lawmaker is 600 to 700,000. If you go to an ordinary state, it's 700 to 800,000. And then for some states, I guess you get super fucked, and you've got like 800 to 900,000 people represented by one lawmaker. Wait, so you brought up Wyoming was your example. How many representatives does Wyoming have? 7 states have one representative: Alaska, Wyoming, Montana. Oh, sorry, you said one. So Wyoming population is 581,000. California has 52 representatives. California population. So 300 or 39, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 divided by 52. So if you're in California, you get 750,000 people get one representative. In Wyoming, it only takes 580,000 people to get one representative. This is what I mean when I say the House isn't balanced either. In a perfectly balanced House, California would have more representatives, right? Destiny, that is wrong. What's wrong? What did I just say that's possibly wrong? Is it true that undocumenteds are considered part of the population for House Rep calculations? I believe that is true, but because of the way the House is balanced right now, the last poll that I think it was a Gallup or Pew, I think that conservatives are the ones that benefit from that undocumented population by 1 vote right now, I think. Pew, let me check on that. Pew Research, census, illegal immigrant House seats. Was it just for electoral college seats or was it House of Representative seats? I don't remember. Oh, it might be this. What did I see here? How removing unauthorized immigrants from the census statistics could affect the House reapportionment. So if you were to reapportion the House and you were to get rid of illegal immigrants, Texas and Florida would both lose 1 seat. Alabama, Minnesota, and Ohio would gain 1 seat, and California would lose 1 seat. Conservatives will screech about how illegal immigrants are helping, give Democrats votes, but it's not true. It doesn't, yeah. I think we should get rid of winner-take-all electoral points for presidential elections. Me too. I think it's real dumb, but... Okay. Oh, sorry. 30 seconds left on this yapper.
They tried to keep that concealed from the people of Michigan. Your name? My name is Ian Northon. IANNORTHON. I'm a private attorney. I'm representing a charity called the Amistad Project. It's a 501c3, and it's affiliated with another charity called the Thomas More Society out of Chicago. We filed several pre-election lawsuits on election integrity. Every elected official, including the legislators and including everyone else here, the governor and everyone else, has a constitutional duty to ensure the accuracy and integrity of the election. And that's what these electors were trying to do here today.